Our next topic will be angle pairs. Now notice that I labeled this Angle Pairs Part 1. That's because in class we will learn about some different other sets of angle pairs. The three angle pairs we're going to focus on today are complementary, supplementary, and vertical. Pause the video for just a second and please sketch down this tree map and make sure that you have the diagrams as well to go along with each word. Starting on the left, let's talk about complementary. By looking at the picture, I can tell that both angle 1 and angle 2 together make up a right angle. So complementary angles are angles that add up to 90 degrees. I always had a cheesy saying in my geometry class that to complement Mrs. Sturgell is the right thing to do. So complementary and right are what we're looking for there. Supplementary means two angles that make up a straight angle which is equal to 180 degrees. Now these two angle pairs are an example of what is known as adjacent angles. Adjacent angles are angles that are side by side. Complementary and supplementary sometimes again students do mix up. So remember, to complement Miss Sturgell is the right thing to do. And I think of supplementary being a straight angle, and both of those start with the letter S. Now vertical angles are a little bit different. I have circled here angle 2 and angle 4. Angle 2 and angle 4 are an example of vertical angles. Vertical angles are directly across from each other, and I like to think of them as being back-to-back V's. If you look at my mouse moving by angle 2, and then look at it by angle 4, they're back-to-back, so that means they're back-to-back V's. What's true about these angles is they are the same. And it was interesting to see on your pre-assessment, many of you knew that right off the bat. So angle 2 and angle 4 are back-to-back V's, or vertical, and angle 1 and angle 3 are also the same. I also like to think of vertical angles kind of like scissors. How I open the scissors determines how wide the blades are apart. We're going to walk through three quick examples just to kind of get the idea of what's with angle pairs, and then you need to check Edmodo for a quick true-false quiz to practice to make sure you understand what the words mean. So here's my first example, and it's actually quite simple. In the problem they tell me that angle 3 and angle 4 are complementary. So if angle 4 is 64 degrees, then what is the measure of angle 3? Remember, complementary means right. So the right thing to do is to make sure it adds up to 90 degrees. So all I have to do is 90 minus 64, and I come up that the complement is 26 degrees. So that's all you have to do when they give you just a statement like this. Our next example is a little bit more complicated, and you probably did see this on your pre-assessment. Some of you remembered what to do to find all these angles, but some of us had a little bit of difficulty. I'm going to walk through using the vocabulary we just used, but I'm also going to share with you a way to check your work, knowing what all four of these angles add up to. So this is how I go about doing it. First, I notice that 98 and angle 1 together make this straight line right here. So that means these two add up to 180. I also notice that angle 3 and 98 degrees also add up to 180. So to find their missing angle, all I'm going to do is 180 minus 98, and I get 82 as the measure of angle 1 and angle 3. Well, now it's pretty simple. I think the easiest thing to do is to notice that angle of 98 degrees and angle 2 are vertical. If they're vertical, we just said before they're the same. Now a way to check your work a lot of you guys noticed is that all four angles make up a circle, or 360 degrees. So if I were to add up all four of these angles, they needed to add up to 360 degrees. Notice the pattern that you see here as well. We have supplements and congruent vertical angles. Notice there's only two measures here. This is going to come back up when we talk about parallel lines and angles. Now I had to throw in a bit of a challenge since this is an advanced class. So looking at this picture here, I noticed that it's not just measures of angles. I noticed that I actually have some expressions. Now don't be upset, don't get too stressed about it, it's not a big deal. I know by looking at this picture that the angle of 5x, the angle of 2x, and the angle of 3x all have to equal 180. How I know that is that they all make up a straight line. So I can write an equation where I say 5x plus 2x plus 3x equals 180. And that's really all I have to do. So over here, let me show you what I did. I wrote the equation 5x plus 2x plus 3x equals 180. I combined my like terms, so I have 10x equals 180. I divided by 10 and I ended up with x equals 18. To find all of my missing angles, I need to plug 18 back in. So I started with the big angle. 5 times 18 was 90. Well, I can kind of see that because this angle is 5x and these two are 5x, that, well, both halves would have to have been 90. That's not always the case unless these two add up to be the same thing. To find the other missing angle, I want to do 2 times 18, and I get 36 degrees. For the last angle, I find that to be 54. Now if I wanted to check my work, I would make sure that all 3 of those angles add up to 180, since all 3 of those angles make up a straight line. Like I said earlier, please go on to Edmodo and check out a quiz. It's just a quick true-false quiz just to test to see how well you understand supplementary, complementary, and vertical angles.